Hey there guys, what's going on? So, it's a lovely spring day, the first one in what feels like eons. I got a big unboxing that I want to do today, a big vinyl thing that I want to talk about, so let's not delay, let's get right to it. So, Johnny Cash. Many of you may know him as the Man in Black, Folsom Prison Blues, the man who played at several different prisons and released two wonderful live prison albums, live at Folsom Prison and live at San Quentin. He is one of the foremost figures of old country music, arguably the best era of country music, the era of Johnny and Chris and Waylon and Willie and all of the above. He is a man who had such an illustrious career, but one pauses and goes back to think on the fact that were it not for this period of the 1990s into the early 2000s that we're going to talk about here today, he might not even be as widely known of a figure. He might have been long disappeared were it not for this particular interference in his career, this out of left field blessed interference that happened that caused him to go to a whole new place of not only creativity, but where he ended up reaching to and who he ended up reaching, whose ears he ended up reaching, and how I think he really transcended a boundary. Without further ado, of course, because you can already see by the title what I'm going to talk about, we got to talk about the American recordings era for Mr. Johnny Cash, and specifically the very recent re-release of American Recordings 1, Unchained, Volume 2, and Solitary Man, Volume 3. To give you a little bit of backstory, by the time the 1990s had rolled around, Johnny Cash's star had, for all intents and purposes, basically flared out. He had been dropped from his record label. He was kind of at the end of things, career-wise. For most, that might be the end of their career. He was starting to flatline and kind of level off and reach this sort of, not so much mediocrity perhaps, but just like his best days were behind him. And it was at this point, somewhere in all of this, that Mr. Johnny Cash met Mr. Rick Rubin, the great hip-hop record producer, hip-hop hard rock guy, long beard, very not what you'd expect type of guy. And basically, his label, the label he was behind or involved with, American Recordings, they offered Johnny Cash a recording contract. And, you know, being a man in such a position, I'm sure, despite the fact that American Recordings really had no country ties or connections, you know, it was a great opportunity to see what would happen. And thanks to Rick Rubin, we come to, despite the huge aspect of Johnny Cash's career, having songs out in, you know, the 1950s, his first notable songs, this wide-spanning, hugely arcing career comes to this point, and under Rick Rubin's supervision and what they end up doing with John, arguably comes the greatest period of his career and the greatest reinvention, not only for Johnny Cash, but for this type of idea. To take a star who'd maybe burned out or wasn't on the radar anymore, and to say, let's take it back to basics. You did this, you did that, you were this country music star, you had all these elements, let's take it right down to nothing. You and your guitar. And this was even something that Johnny Cash himself was very much in favor of, because his first producer, the legendary Sun Records founder Sam Phillips, was always a proponent of keeping things simple, and he wanted to go back to that style. Thus, in 1994, American One rolled around. American One features little more than Johnny at home, or in a couple of songs are in a live setting at Johnny Depp's club, the Viper Room, which is the last connection you'd ever expect to make. Are little more than just him, his guitar, he's at home, he's in this live setting, but that's it. That's it. And mostly, this actually was the composition of all these records of his that featured the most of John's originally written material. like Delia's Gone, Let the Train Blow the Whistle, and Drive On, but then it featured some of the great bevy of cover songs that were to come across the span of this American recording session, such as The Beast in Me, which was a Nick Lowe tune, Why Me Lord, which was a great Chris Christopherson song, Oh Bury Me Not, which is traditional, 13, which the heavy metal icon Glenn Danzig of Danzig wrote for Johnny, allegedly in 20 minutes or something akin to that. Bird on a Wire, Leonard Cohen. Down There by the Train, Tom Waits, also written for Johnny. The older song Tennessee Stud. Just amazing stuff. It was well received, wonderfully received, of course, because of how brilliant it is. And this was actually taken somewhere in some sort of Australian preserve. Very interesting photo there. This is the back here. I'll get into the inside here. See the old fingers of the man himself. Gives you an idea here of what's what. You know, writing credits. Delia's Gone, Let the Train Blow the Whistle. You know, writing for everything. Produced by Rick Rubin. All the usual credits and whatnot. And on the back here, I haven't actually gotten through this yet, is all of this sort of liner note, his thoughts on the album, Johnny Cash's thoughts on the album, what he did and what his feeling was on the guitar, how the guitar was introduced with him and with his life, and just how it ended up, you know, sort of coming together with the guitar, all written out like this. Give you just a tiny little hint of backstory on getting these. I just actually picked these up last weekend. I was not aware that the first several volumes of these had all been re-released and repurposed and put back out there again for sale. They're not exactly on the cheaper side, but they're really well done. I went to, as I like to mention in these videos, as you'll know if you're coming into my newer channel and you're new to it, usually I like to credit my guys over at Angry Mom Records in Ithaca, New York. You know, go check them out if you're ever in that area, the Ithaca Commons, under the basement, basically the basement of a bookstore. Wonderful guys, brilliant guys, great stock, old punks, they're the best. And I got this there. They didn't have the fourth volume. They actually thought the fourth volume would be out in a few weeks, but it seems to be out now. But I'm going to keep an eye out for the next one. But not to get too sidetracked here, here's the cut of the record as well. Very, you know, I always like to go into this, very solid, good weight to it, good feel, not too light and springy, not too deficient like that, basically. And a few years later, Johnny moved on and basically started to, you know, his records from here on then sort of started to transition over to consisting of more covers. I mean, he would still throw in an original here and there and some things, but it was a lot more covers going forward from American One. And that really was a great thing in a way, because as much as it was, you know, so much of music and people play music, you know, original songs are the great breakthrough of great musicians and such. But the way that, you know, under Rick Rubin's guidance and the way that Johnny approached them in their simply acoustic, simply this dark resonance, depending on the song, really it reinvented so many of these excellent tunes. And this one, on Unchained here, had Beck with Rowboat, Rusty Cage with Soundgarden, which, as I recall it, Soundgarden had an incredibly favorable reaction to this cover version of their song, just as Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails did later on down the line with Hurt when that one came along. That was the big, huge breakout one, of course. And I believe it was, Chris Cornell had said something to the effect of he felt that Johnny's version had really opened up the lyrics and really gave attention to what we were saying in the song that you really couldn't tell with Soundgarden's original version. So I think there was a lot of appreciation there. What were some of the other songs here? The One Rose That's Left in My Heart, which is a cover. Country Boy, but that's an original. That's a Johnny Cash one. Southern Accents was Tom Petty. Kneeling Drunkards Plea. Was a Carter family song. It is a great mixture of, it's harder. I have to look at this one because I know the songs from his interpretation, but these aren't as notably like familiar as some of the covers that were to come later on. And here's the cover to that, and the back. Very nicely re-released albums here, all single fold. No download cards or anything like that, but solid stock, good quality there. And I like that with each of these records, on this side you have the young picture of Johnny in his youth that would be on the cover of American 6, I believe. The great thing about this is you saw the handwritten sort of his thoughts on the album for number 1, and then he did sort of the same thing on the second one, kind of talking about what happened at the sessions, talking about stuff on the album, relating to the album, and I think that's really enlightening. And this actually was the record, because I actually got confused between 2 and 3, because Tom Petty ended up contributing quite a lot, and it was on Unchained, on number 2, that he and the Heartbreakers, Ben Tench and Mike Campbell, all ended up kind of being his backing band, because it got bigger after this. After American 1, which was the solo acoustic thing, then it started to catch on. Other people started to come in and guest. Flea came in and guested on a song. Marty Stewart, another great underrated country guy, sort of in the Chris Christopherson mold, except lesser known, I think. Lindsey Buckingham and Mick Fleetwood showed up for Sea of Heartbreak. So many songs were recorded during this time period as well, because it ended up being the great saving grace of the end of Johnny's life. Because as he got older, his health wasn't so great. His lungs really started to fail. Going into the later years, of his own life and of these American sessions, then June passed away. And this whole thing, this whole exodus, this whole odyssey became what his life was really so much about. And unfortunately we have to stop with American 3 because that's all I have right now. But this is American 3, Solitary Man. The notes for the album go to the back of the record in this case. This is actually probably one of my favorite installments other than number 1, just because it has so many great covers and just a great overall roll to the motif of the record. Like having I Won't Back Down, which is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Solitary Man, Neil Diamond, That Lucky Old Sun, which is a great traditional song, although Ray Charles's version will always be my favorite. One from U2, I See a Darkness, which is a Bonnie Prince Billy song that he sang, or Will Oldham is his real name, that Bonnie Prince Billy came in and sang with him on. And Sheryl Crow contributed on this particular record. Let's look inside here, give you an idea of who else was on this. Again, the Heartbreakers were involved. Mike Campbell, at least, was in on it. Merle Haggard contributed vocals to I'm Leaving Now. Like I said, Sheryl Crow, Randy Scruggs, Marty Stewart, Ben Tench from the Heartbreakers. Just a really cool level of participation. There's a cool photo there, and what I can only assume is again the man himself there. Just really great quality records, great sound, really transmitting that evolution from the guitar in his living room to just this full band sound, and where the American recordings exodus would go from here. The people that would contribute, the songs that would get done. So many songs were recorded that all these sessions, all these records ended up being released, and so many other songs had to be put onto a big box set that didn't even make the cut. So many people came out and sang with him and participated with him, and this American recordings thing not only opened him up to such a wider audience and to so many more people, but I think was just such a beautiful thing within the musical community to see all these people come together who wanted to play with this man that Rick Rubin had helped revive, and it really just helped revive such a beautiful part of Johnny's life. I think it's also really cool and essential to own American 1, American 2, American 3, and onward. Like I said, I know definitely 4 is out there, and I don't know what their plans are for the next couple, but it could be a good year to be a Johnny Cash fan. Between this, all this stuff, and his Out Among the Stars album, another posthumous record from the 1980s when he was still with Columbia, I believe, is going to come out this year. He's pulling his own Tupac Shakur. Johnny is still alive in this music, and people are really appreciating it, and I know that I am really appreciating it too. So I hope you enjoyed this lengthy little installment. I wanted to get right to it, plow right into it, and talk about a lot of stuff to do with it. It's a great passion of mine. Johnny's music is just something that really ignites me, gets me going, and I wanted to not only unbox this stuff, give you guys an idea of what was what here, but I also kind of wanted to, you know, give a little bit of a history lesson on basically the whole background of it, because it's really quite fascinating. And I hope you guys enjoyed my little vinyl unboxing here. Keep it tuned to this station as always for more videos on music, TV, everything under the sun. Reviews should be coming up next. I'm hoping with any luck you'll be seeing the review for the St. Vincent record that I was asked about last week. And we'll go onward and upward from there. But keep on watching, keep on tuning in as I take the world by storm in 2014. Thank you all for watching.